Chapter 1. Chapter 1. The Gathering. In the dim light of the fading day, the 5 friends stood at the edge of the woods, their laughter echoing against the backdrop of towering trees. Just hours earlier, they had arrived in the quaint, eerie town of Eldridge Hollow, a place steeped in local lore and whispered tales of the supernatural. The air had been thick with excitement as they unloaded their gear, but now, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a sense of foreboding settled over them like a heavy fog. The last chapter had ended with a promise of adventure, but as they gazed at the silhouette of the abandoned cabin looming in the distance, that promise felt more like a dare. "Are we really doing this?" Paige asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, her eyes darting toward the cabin, where shadows danced in the fading light. "Of course we are," Mary-Kate replied, her enthusiasm unwavering. She was the instigator of this trip, her adventurous spirit often leading them into situations that straddled the line between thrilling and terrifying. It's Halloween. What better way to celebrate than camping near a haunted cabin? Caitlin rolled her eyes, though a smile tugged at her lips. Haunted. More like a glorified shack. I doubt anything spooky is going to happen. She set her backpack down with a thud, the sound echoing in the stillness of the woods. "Speak for yourself," Brad chimed in, his voice teasing but laced with an undercurrent of tension. He was the skeptic of the group, always quick to dismiss the supernatural, yet even he couldn't shake the chill that crept up his spine as he glanced at the cabin. "I'm just saying, if we hear any weird noises tonight, I'm out." Ashley, the quietest of the group, stood a few paces back, her gaze fixed on the cabin. "What if it is not just a story?" she murmured, her voice barely audible. The others turned to her, surprised by her sudden seriousness. "Come on, Ash," Paige said, stepping closer to her. "It's just a bunch of old tales. We're here to have fun, remember." As they began to set up camp, the atmosphere shifted. The sun disappeared completely, leaving only the faint glow of the campfire they had hastily built. The crackling flames cast flickering shadows that danced across their faces, illuminating their expressions. Excitement mixed with a hint of fear. "Who wants to start with the ghost stories?" Mary-Kate asked, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I'll go," Caitlin declared, her voice rising above the crackle of the fire. She leaned in closer, her face lit by the firelight, and began her tale. "Once, in a town not unlike this one, there was a girl who went missing in the woods. They say she was lured by the whispers of the trees, calling her deeper and deeper until she vanished without a trace." As Caitlin spun her story, the others leaned in, captivated. The woods around them seemed to grow quieter, the rustling leaves and distant animal calls fading into the background. The fire crackled, sending sparks into the night sky, and for a moment, they were all lost in the world Caitlin had created. But as she reached the climax of her tale, a sudden rustling in the bushes nearby broke the spell. The group froze, eyes wide, hearts pounding. "What was that?" Ashley whispered, her voice trembling. "Probably just a raccoon," Brad said, though his bravado was shaky. He glanced toward the darkness beyond the firelight, where the trees loomed like sentinels, their branches swaying gently in the night breeze. "Or maybe it is the ghost of the girl," Mary-Kate teased, but her laughter was strained, and she quickly glanced over her shoulder, as if expecting to see something lurking in the shadows. Okay, let's not freak out," Paige said, trying to keep the mood light. "Caitlin, finish your story." Caitlin hesitated, her eyes darting toward the noise. "Right, so they say if you listen closely, you can still hear her cries echoing through the woods at night." A chill ran through the group, and they exchanged nervous glances. The fire crackled louder, as if responding to their unease. "Let's do another story," Brad suggested, eager to shift the focus away from the unsettling noise. "I'll go next. This one's about a haunted cabin." As he began his tale, the tension in the air thickened. The woods felt alive, the shadows stretching and shifting as if they were listening. The stories flowed, each one more chilling than the last, weaving a tapestry of fear and excitement that bound them together. But as the night wore on, the stories took on a life of their own. The laughter faded, replaced by an uneasy silence that hung heavily in the air. The fire crackled, and the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it an unshakable sense of dread. "Okay, I think that's enough ghost stories for one night," Paige finally said, her voice breaking the spell. "Let's just enjoy the fire and maybe roast some marshmallows." "Good idea," Caitlin agreed, though her eyes still flickered toward the darkness beyond the firelight. As they began to roast marshmallows, the tension slowly eased, but the feeling of being watched lingered. The woods felt oppressive, the trees closing in around them as if they were being encircled by unseen eyes. "Do you guys ever feel like we're not alone out here?" Ashley asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Stop it, Ash," Mary-Kate said, rolling her eyes. "You're just trying to scare us again." "No, really," Ashley insisted, her gaze fixed on the shadows. "I can't shake this feeling. Like something is out there." Brad scoffed, but his bravado was faltering. "It's just the stories getting to you. We're fine. Just a bunch of trees and animals." But as the fire crackled and the night deepened, the shadows seemed to grow darker, more menacing. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves and sending a shiver down their spines. "Let's just stick together," Paige said, trying to sound confident. "We'll be fine as long as we're all here." The group huddled closer to the fire, their laughter now tinged with nervousness. They shared stories of their childhood, moments of joy that felt distant in the face of the encroaching darkness. But even as they laughed, the feeling of unease lingered, a weight pressing down on them. As the clock ticked toward midnight, the fire began to dwindle, casting long shadows that flickered and danced around them. The woods felt alive, the air thick with anticipation. "Let's go check out the cabin," Mary-Kate said. Chapter 2. Chapter 2. The first night. The flickering flames of the campfire danced against the encroaching darkness, casting long shadows that twisted and turned like the stories being told. Paige, Mary-Kate, Caitlin, Ashley, and Brad had settled into their makeshift campsite, the air thick with the scent of pine and the faint crackle of dry leaves underfoot. The previous chapter of their adventure had been filled with laughter and light-hearted ghost stories, but as the sun dipped below the horizon, a palpable tension began to weave itself into the fabric of their gathering. The woods surrounding them felt alive, whispering secrets that only the wind could carry. As the last echoes of laughter faded, a chill swept through the clearing, causing Ashley to shiver involuntarily. She pulled her jacket tighter around her shoulders, glancing toward the darkened tree line that loomed just beyond the firelight. "Did you guys hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Hear what?" Brad replied, his brow furrowing as he leaned forward, the firelight illuminating his curious expression. "You're not getting scared already, are you?" "It's just the wind," Caitlin chimed in, though her own eyes darted nervously toward the shadows. "We're in the middle of the woods, remember. It's supposed to be creepy." "Creepy is an understatement," Mary-Kate added, her tone teasing but her eyes betraying a hint of unease. "This place is straight out of a horror movie." Paige, ever the brave one, rolled her eyes. "Come on, guys. It's just a cabin. What's the worst that could happen?" But even as she spoke, a shiver ran down her spine, and she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The group fell into a contemplative silence, the only sounds the crackling fire and the distant rustle of leaves. It was then that Caitlin, her curiosity piqued, stood up. I'm going to check out the cabin, she announced, her voice firm despite the flutter of nerves in her stomach. Are you serious? Ashley exclaimed, her eyes wide. You can't go in there alone. I'll be fine, Caitlin insisted, though a flicker of doubt crossed her mind. She had always been drawn to the mysterious, the unknown, and the cabin had an allure that was hard to resist. I'll just take a quick look. I'll be right back. Before anyone could protest further, Caitlin slipped away into the darkness, the beam of her flashlight cutting through the shadows like a knife. The others exchanged worried glances, the air thick with unspoken fears. As Caitlin approached the cabin, the wooden structure loomed before her, its weathered boards creaking softly in the wind. The door hung slightly ajar, as if inviting her in. She hesitated for a moment, the hairs on the back of her neck prickling with unease, but her curiosity pushed her forward. Inside, the air was stale, filled with the scent of damp wood and something else. Something metallic that made her stomach churn. The beam of her flashlight danced across the walls, revealing peeling wallpaper and shattered glass. It was a place frozen in time, a relic of a past that felt heavy with secrets. As she stepped further inside, something caught her eye. A small, leather-bound diary lying on the floor, half hidden beneath a pile of debris. Caitlin knelt down, her heart racing as she picked it up. The cover was cracked and worn, but it felt strangely warm in her hands, as if it had been waiting for her. Flipping it open, she began to read, her breath hitching as the words unfolded a chilling tale of betrayal and murder. The entries spoke of a woman named Eliza, who had lived in the cabin decades ago. Her life had been filled with love and laughter until a dark shadow fell over her. A jealous lover who had taken everything from her, including her life. Caitlin's heart raced as she read the final entry, detailing the night of the murder. I can hear him coming for me, it said. The darkness is closing in. If anyone finds this, know that I was innocent. I was betrayed. A cold shiver ran down Caitlin's spine, and she felt an inexplicable connection to Eliza's story. It was as if the woman's spirit lingered in the cabin, reaching out to her through the pages. She could almost hear Eliza's whispers in the wind, begging for justice. Caitlin. A voice called from outside, breaking her trance. It was Paige, her tone laced with concern. Are you okay in there? Caitlin quickly tucked the diary under her arm and made her way back to the door, her heart pounding. Yeah, I'm fine. Just looking around. As she stepped back into the moonlight, the others gathered around her, their faces etched with worry. You scared us, Mary-Kate exclaimed, her hands on her hips. What did you find? Caitlin hesitated, the weight of the diary pressing against her side. Just some old stuff, she said, trying to sound casual. Nothing to worry about. But Ashley's eyes narrowed, a flicker of intuition sparking within her. You're hiding something, she said, her voice low. What is it? Caitlin opened her mouth to respond, but before she could speak, a sudden gust of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing the campfire in an instant. The darkness enveloped them, and a collective gasp echoed in the night. Great, Brad muttered, fumbling for his phone to use as a flashlight. Just what we need. An actual horror movie moment. Let's just relight the fire, Paige suggested, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. It's probably just the wind. But as they scrambled to gather kindling and matches, Caitlin felt an unsettling sensation wash over her. The shadows seemed to shift and swirl, and she could almost hear the whispers again, echoing through the trees. Caitlin. They seemed to call, a haunting melody that sent chills down her spine. Caitlin. Ashley's voice broke through her reverie, concern etched on her face. Are you okay? I think I found something, Caitlin finally admitted, her voice trembling. She pulled the diary from under her arm, the leather cover worn and fragile. It's a diary. It belonged to a woman named Eliza. She was murdered here. The group fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air like a thick fog. Brad's eyes widened, and Mary-Kate took a step back, her expression a mix of fear and disbelief. Murdered? Are you serious? Yeah, Caitlin replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She wrote about it, about how she was betrayed. Betrayed? Ashley echoed, her brow furrowing. By who? I don't know, Caitlin admitted, her heart racing. Chapter 3. Chapter 3. The Love Showdown. The crackling fire cast flickering shadows against the trees, illuminating the faces of 5 friends who had come to this eerie town seeking adventure and a thrill. The air was thick with the scent of pine and smoke, mingling with the chill of the autumn night. Just hours earlier, they had gathered around the campfire, sharing ghost stories that sent shivers down their spines. Caitlin had unearthed an old diary in the abandoned cabin, revealing a dark past that hinted at murder and despair. As the night deepened, strange occurrences began to unfold. Whispers danced through the trees, lights flickered, and shadows flitted just beyond their vision. Now, as the embers glowed softly, the tension among them was palpable, simmering just beneath the surface. Brad leaned back against a log, his gaze fixed on Caitlin, who was animatedly recounting the diary's most chilling passages. Her dark hair framed her face, and the firelight danced in her hazel eyes, making them sparkle with a mixture of fear and excitement. He felt a pull towards her, an undeniable connection that had been growing since they arrived. But as he watched her, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The way she spoke, the way her laughter echoed in the night. It was as if she was slipping away from him, drawn into the shadows of the cabin. Come on, Caitlin, you can't seriously believe that stuff. Mary-Kate teased, nudging Paige playfully. It's just a bunch of old stories meant to scare us. Caitlin rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lips. You say that now, but wait until we're all tucked in our tents, and the wind starts howling. You'll be the first one to scream. Paige laughed, her voice light and airy, but Brad noticed the way her eyes darted towards the cabin, as if it held secrets she was too afraid to confront. I'll take that bet. I'm not scared of some old ghost. I'd rather face a real monster. Like what? Ashley chimed in, her voice barely above a whisper. She sat a little apart from the group, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. The firelight flickered across her face, revealing a mixture of apprehension and longing. Like the one that killed that girl. The laughter died down, replaced by an uneasy silence. The wind rustled through the trees, and Brad felt a chill creep up his spine. He glanced at Ashley, who seemed lost in her thoughts, her gaze distant. He wanted to reach out to her, to pull her back into the warmth of their friendship, but something held him back. Hey, Ash, he said, trying to lighten the mood. You're not scared, are you? I thought you were the brave one. She looked up, her blue eyes meeting his, and for a moment, he saw a flicker of something deeper. Something that hinted at the insecurities she had been hiding. I'm not scared, she replied, but her voice lacked conviction. I don't want to be here anymore. Why not? Caitlin asked, her tone shifting from playful to concerned. We're all in this together. It's just a camping trip. Ashley's jaw tightened, and she shifted uncomfortably. It's not just that. I feel like I'm the odd one out. You all have your connections, your inside jokes. I'm just here. Brad's heart sank. He had sensed Ashley's withdrawal, but hearing her voice it made it real. He wanted to tell her that she was just as important to the group, that her presence mattered, but the words caught in his throat. Instead, he glanced at Caitlin, who seemed oblivious to the tension brewing between him and Ashley. Come on, Ash, Mary-Kate said, her voice gentle. We're all friends here. You're not alone. Yeah, Brad added, leaning forward. We all care about you. Just because you're not flirting with anyone doesn't mean you don't belong. Ashley's eyes flashed with hurt, and she looked away, biting her lip. It's not about flirting. It's just, I don't know. I feel like I'm losing you guys. Caitlin's expression softened, and she reached out, placing a hand on Ashley's shoulder. You're not losing us. We're all here for each other. Right, guys. Right, Paige and Mary-Kate echoed, but Brad remained silent, his gaze fixed on Ashley. He could see the hurt in her eyes, the way she fought to hold back tears. He wanted to comfort her, to tell her that she was more than just a friend to him, but the words felt heavy on his tongue. The moment hung in the air, thick with unspoken feelings and unresolved tension. Just as Brad opened his mouth to speak, a loud crack echoed through the woods, startling them all. The fire flickered violently, casting erratic shadows as the wind picked up, howling through the trees like a banshee. What was that? Caitlin exclaimed, her voice rising in panic. I don't know, Brad replied, his heart racing. Maybe it is just the wind. But deep down, he felt a sense of dread creeping in, a feeling that something was very wrong. The shadows around them seemed to grow darker, more menacing, and he could feel the weight of the cabin's history pressing down on them. Let's go check it out, Mary-Kate suggested, her adventurous spirit shining through. What's the worst that could happen? Are you crazy? Ashley shot back, her voice trembling. We should stay here. Come on, Ash, Caitlin said, trying to lighten the mood again. It'll be fun. Just a little adventure. Brad felt torn. Part of him wanted to protect Ashley, to keep her safe from whatever darkness lurked in the woods, but the other part of him was drawn to the thrill of the unknown. Maybe we should just stay by the fire, he said, glancing at Ashley, who looked pale and frightened. Fine, Mary-Kate huffed, crossing her arms. But you're all missing out on the fun. As the group settled back into an uneasy silence, Brad couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. The air felt charged, electric, as if the very woods were holding their breath. He glanced at Caitlin, who was still animatedly chatting with Paige, and felt a pang of jealousy. Why couldn't he be the one to make her laugh like that? Hey, Caitlin, he said, trying to break through the tension. What do you think about the diary? Do you really believe it? She turned to him, her expression thoughtful. I don't know. It's creepy, for sure. But I think there's more to it than just a ghost story. There's a reason why the cabin is abandoned. Maybe it is haunted, Mary-Kate chimed in, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. Lost and Found. The flames had danced like wild spirits, licking the night sky and consuming the cabin that had held so many secrets. The acrid smell of smoke still lingered in the air, mingling with the earthy scent of damp leaves and pine. As the last embers faded into the darkness, the friends stood in a tight circle, hearts racing, breaths shallow. The chaos of the fire had been overwhelming, but it was the sudden absence of Ashley that left them reeling. Where is she? Caitlin's voice trembled, her eyes wide with fear. The flickering glow of the dying fire illuminated her face, casting shadows that mirrored the panic in her heart. I thought she was right behind us. Brad exclaimed, his brow furrowed in confusion. He ran a hand through his tousled hair, glancing back at the charred remains of the cabin. She wouldn't just wander off. Mary-Kate's hands trembled as she clutched her flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness. We have to find her. She could be hurt. Her voice broke, the unspoken fear hanging heavily in the air. Paige, usually the voice of reason, felt a knot tightening in her stomach. Let's split up. We'll cover more ground that way. We can't waste any time. As they began to move, a low rumble echoed through the trees, causing them to freeze. The sound was foreign, almost mechanical, and it sent a shiver down Paige's spine. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her heart pounding in her chest. Before anyone could respond, a sleek black car emerged from the shadows, its headlights piercing the night. The vehicle glided silently toward them, and as it drew closer, they all felt an inexplicable chill. "Is that?" Brad started, but his voice trailed off as the car came to a stop, the engine purring softly. The door swung open, and to their horror, Ashley was inside, her expression a mix of confusion and fear. "Guys! Help!" she shouted, but before they could react, the car accelerated, tires screeching against the gravel, and it sped away into the darkness. "No, Ashley!" Caitlin screamed, her voice cracking as she lunged forward, but it was too late. The car vanished into the night, leaving only the echo of its engine behind. "What just happened?" Mary-Kate gasped, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Did that car just take her?" "We have to follow it," Brad said, determination hardening his features. "We can't let her go alone." "But how?" Caitlin's voice was frantic. "We don't even know where it went." Paige took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. "We'll figure it out. We have to stick together. If that car is connected to the cabin, then maybe we can find a clue." The group exchanged glances, the weight of their fear palpable. They were no longer just friends on a camping trip. They were now a team on a desperate mission to save one of their own. As they moved deeper into the woods, the trees loomed like silent sentinels, their branches swaying gently in the cool night breeze. The moon cast an eerie glow, illuminating the path ahead but also deepening the shadows behind them. Each snap of a twig underfoot felt like a warning, a reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond their sight. "Do you think Ashley is okay?" Caitlin asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "She has to be," Brad replied, though his own uncertainty gnawed at him. "She's strong. She'll find a way to hold on until we get to her." Paige felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. "This is all my fault. I should have kept a closer eye on her. I should have." "Stop," Mary-Kate interrupted, placing a hand on Paige's shoulder. "This isn't the time for blame. We need to focus on finding her." They pressed on, the tension thickening with each step. The air was heavy with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, and the sounds of the forest seemed to close in around them. The rustle of small animals in the underbrush, the distant hoot of an owl, and the whisper of the wind all felt like ominous reminders of their isolation. After what felt like hours of walking, they stumbled upon a narrow dirt road that wound through the trees. "This has to lead somewhere," Brad said, glancing down the path. "We should follow it." As they walked, the road began to incline, and the trees thinned out, revealing a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood an old, dilapidated sign that read "Whispering Pines." "Isn't that where the old amusement park used to be?" Caitlin asked, her voice tinged with nostalgia. "I remember hearing about it as a kid. They say it closed after a series of accidents." "Great," Paige muttered, her heart racing. "Just what we need. A haunted amusement park." "Maybe it is where the car went," Brad suggested, his eyes scanning the area. "We should check it out." As they approached the entrance, the air grew colder, and a sense of foreboding settled over them. The rusted gates creaked ominously as they pushed them open, revealing a desolate landscape of overgrown weeds and crumbling rides. The remnants of laughter and joy lingered in the air, now replaced by an unsettling silence. "Stay close," Paige urged, her voice steady despite the fear creeping into her heart. "We don't know what we're walking into." They ventured deeper into the park, the moonlight casting long shadows that danced across the ground. The Ferris wheel loomed in the distance, its once vibrant colors faded and peeling. The carousel stood still, its horses frozen in time, their eyes hollow and haunting. "Look over there." Mary-Kate pointed toward a flickering light near the entrance of a dilapidated funhouse. "It looks like someone's inside." "Let's check it out," Brad said, his voice low but firm. As they approached the funhouse, the air grew thick with tension. The sound of their footsteps echoed eerily against the cracked pavement. Paige felt a chill run down her spine, but she pushed it aside, focusing on the flickering light that beckoned them closer. Inside, the funhouse was a maze of mirrors and distorted reflections. The air was stale, carrying the faint scent of mildew and something else. Something metallic. "Ashley," Caitlin called, her voice trembling as it bounced off the walls. "Over here." A voice echoed back, but it was not Ashley's. It was a low, mocking tone that sent shivers down their spines. "Who's there?" Brad demanded, stepping forward, his fists clenched. "Just a friend," the voice replied, dripping with sarcasm. "Looking for lost souls." Chapter 5. Chapter 5. The Happy Pink Donkey. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the dense woods that surrounded the abandoned cabin. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine needles, mingling with the lingering smoke from the fire that had consumed the cabin just hours before. Paige, Mary-Kate, Caitlin, and Brad stood together, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of their flashlights, the shadows of the trees stretching ominously around them. Ashley was gone, taken by the enchanted car that had transformed from the very cabin they had fled. Panic and confusion swirled in their minds, but they knew they had to keep moving, to find her before it was too late. "Where do we even start?" Caitlin's voice trembled, her eyes darting nervously into the darkness. "We don't even know where that car went." Brad clenched his jaw, his brow furrowed in determination. "We'll find her. We have to. There must be something here that can help us." Mary-Kate, ever the optimist, tried to lighten the mood. "Maybe we'll find a magical map or something. You know, like in the movies." Paige rolled her eyes but couldn't suppress a small smile. "Yeah, because that's how this works. We just need to find a talking donkey or something." As if summoned by her words, a soft, melodic voice broke through the stillness of the night. "Well, you're in luck. I happen to be a talking donkey." The friends turned in unison, their flashlights illuminating a whimsical figure standing a few feet away. It was a donkey, but not just any donkey. This one was a vibrant shade of pink, with a shimmering mane that sparkled like confetti in the moonlight. Its large, expressive eyes twinkled with mischief and wisdom. "Who are you?" Brad asked, his voice a mix of disbelief and curiosity. "I'm Sparkle, the happy pink donkey," it announced proudly, prancing forward with an exaggerated bounce. "And I'm here to help you find your friend." Caitlin blinked, her fear momentarily forgotten. "A talking donkey. This is insane." "Insane. Perhaps. But I assure you, I'm quite real," Sparkle replied, tilting its head. "And I know all about that enchanted car of yours. It's quite the tricky little thing, isn't it?" Paige stepped forward, her heart racing. "You know where it went. You can help us." "Of course. But first, you must confront your fears," Sparkle said, its voice taking on a more serious tone. "The car can only be stopped when you face what haunts you. Each of you has something to confront, and only together can you find the strength to do it." Mary-Kate crossed her arms, skepticism etched on her face. "And how do we do that?" "Just talk about our feelings." "Not quite," Sparkle replied, a playful glint in its eyes. "You'll need to embark on a little adventure. I'll guide you, but you must be willing to face the shadows lurking within." Brad exchanged glances with the others, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. What if we can't? What if we fail? Failure is just a step toward success, Sparkle said, its voice soothing. And remember, you're not alone. You have each other. Caitlin took a deep breath, her resolve strengthening. We can do this. We have to do this. For Ashley. Exactly. Sparkle exclaimed, bouncing on its hooves. Now, let's get started. The first stop on our journey is the Forest of Fears. Follow me. With that, Sparkle turned and trotted into the woods, the friends hesitating for only a moment before following. The trees loomed overhead, their branches twisting like gnarled fingers against the night sky. The air grew cooler, and the sounds of the forest enveloped them. Rustling leaves, distant hoots of owls, and the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. As they walked, the atmosphere shifted. The lightheartedness that Sparkle had brought began to fade, replaced by an undercurrent of tension. Each friend felt the weight of their own fears pressing down on them, a palpable reminder of the darkness they had encountered. Do you really think we can do this? Mary-Kate whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. We have to, Paige replied, her tone firm. For Ashley. We can't let her down. After what felt like an eternity, they arrived at a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood a massive tree, its trunk twisted and gnarled, roots snaking out like the fingers of a giant. Sparkle stopped and turned to face them, its expression serious. This is the heart of the Forest of Fears, it said. Each of you must approach the tree and confront your fear. Only then will you gain the strength to move forward. Caitlin stepped forward first, her heart pounding in her chest. She placed her hand on the rough bark, feeling a surge of energy pulse through her. Images flooded her mind. Memories of her childhood, moments of vulnerability, and the fear of not being enough. She closed her eyes, allowing herself to feel the weight of those emotions. I'm scared of failing, she confessed, her voice trembling. Of not being good enough for anyone, especially for Brad. The tree shuddered, and a soft glow emanated from its trunk. Caitlin opened her eyes, surprised to see a small, shimmering light hovering before her. It danced in the air, illuminating her face with a warm glow. Embrace your fear, Caitlin, Sparkle encouraged. It's a part of you, but it doesn't define you. Taking a deep breath, Caitlin nodded. I won't let it control me anymore. The light flickered, then vanished, leaving her feeling lighter, more empowered. Next, it was Brad's turn. He approached the tree, his hands trembling as he placed them on the bark. Memories of his childhood flooded back. Moments of loneliness, of feeling invisible. The fear of rejection loomed large in his mind. I'm afraid of being alone, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Of not being loved. The tree responded with a gentle rustling of leaves, and a soft breeze enveloped him. He felt a warmth spread through his chest, a reminder that he was not alone, that he had friends who cared for him. I'm not alone, he repeated, his voice growing stronger. I have people who love me. The glow from the tree pulsed brighter, and Brad stepped back, feeling a newfound sense of strength. Mary-Kate was next, her heart racing as she approached the tree. She had always been the jokester, the one who kept things light, but beneath that facade lay a fear of vulnerability. She placed her hands on the bark, feeling the rough texture beneath her fingertips. I'm scared of being seen, she confessed. Chapter 6. Chapter 6. The Campfire Mystery. The flickering glow of the campfire danced in the darkness, casting long shadows that twisted and turned like the secrets buried deep within the woods. The air was thick with the scent of burning wood and the faint, lingering aroma of marshmallows, a stark contrast to the tension that hung over the five friends. Just hours ago, they had been laughing and sharing ghost stories, blissfully unaware of the sinister events that would unfold. Now, With Ashley missing and the haunted cabin reduced to ashes, they were left grappling with fear and uncertainty. Okay, we need to regroup, Brad said, his voice steady but laced with urgency. He poked at the fire, sending a shower of sparks into the night sky. We can't just sit here and wait for something to happen. We need a plan. Caitlin, her eyes wide and glistening with unshed tears, nodded. But what if the car takes her somewhere dangerous? Her voice trembled, and she hugged her knees to her chest, seeking comfort in the familiar warmth of her friends. Mary Kate, ever the optimist, tried to lighten the mood. Come on, guys. We've faced worse, right? We can figure this out. We just need to think. She glanced at Paige, who had been unusually quiet since the fire. Paige, you're the one who found that diary. What do you think it means? Paige stared into the flames, her mind racing. The diary had hinted at a murder, a dark past that seemed to intertwine with Ashley's disappearance. I think it is connected, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. The murder, the cabin. And now Ashley. We have to solve this mystery to save her. As the words hung in the air, a heavy silence enveloped them. Each friend was lost in their thoughts, grappling with their own fears. The fire crackled, a reminder of the danger lurking just beyond the light. Let's share our fears, Brad suggested, breaking the silence. Maybe if we confront them, we can figure out what's going on. Are you serious? Caitlin asked, her brow furrowing. What if it makes things worse? Or better, Mary Kate chimed in, her eyes sparkling with mischief. It could be like a bonding exercise. We're all friends here, right? Paige sighed, knowing they needed to do something. Okay, I'll go first. She took a deep breath, the cool night air filling her lungs. I'm afraid of losing control. I feel like everything is spiraling, and I can't do anything to stop it. Caitlin reached out, squeezing Paige's hand. You're not alone. We're all in this together. I guess I'll go next, Brad said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. I'm afraid of not being able to protect you guys. I feel responsible for everyone, and if something happens to Ashley, I don't know what I'd do. Mary Kate leaned closer, her eyes softening. You're doing your best, Brad. We all are. I'm afraid of the dark, Caitlin admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Not just the dark outside, but the darkness inside me. I feel like I'm hiding something, and it scares me. The fire crackled, and the shadows seemed to lean in closer, as if eavesdropping on their confessions. I guess it is my turn, Mary Kate said, her smile fading. I'm afraid of being forgotten. I want to be remembered, to make a mark on the world, but what if I just fade away? The weight of her words settled over them, heavy and suffocating. Each friend felt the gravity of their fears, the unspoken bond of vulnerability drawing them closer together. Finally, it was Caitlin's turn. I'm afraid of losing Ashley, she said, her voice breaking. She's always been there for me, and I can't imagine life without her. As they sat in silence, the fire crackled and popped, the flames flickering like the uncertainty in their hearts. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing the flames for a brief moment. The darkness felt alive, swirling around them like a living entity. Did you feel that? Brad asked, his voice low and tense. Before anyone could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows, translucent and shimmering in the moonlight. The friends gasped, instinctively huddling closer together. Relax, darlings, the ghost said, its voice dripping with sarcasm. I'm not here to haunt you. Just thought I'd drop by for a little chat. Who are you? Caitlin stammered, her heart racing. Name's Mortimer, the ghost replied, a smirk playing on its ethereal lips. I used to live in that lovely little cabin you burned down. Quite the cozy place, really, until it became a charred pile of memories. Wait, you're a ghost? Mary-Kate asked, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. Brilliant deduction, Sherlock, Mortimer replied, rolling his eyes. I'm here to help you, but let's get one thing straight. I'm not your therapist. I'm more of a consultant. Consultant. Brad echoed, skepticism lacing his tone. What do you know about Ashley? Ah, the missing girl, Mortimer said, his expression shifting to one of mock seriousness. She's quite the spirited one, isn't she? But don't worry, she's safe. For now. For now. Caitlin echoed, panic rising in her chest. What do you mean? Mortimer waved a hand dismissively. You need to confront your fears, my dear friends. Only then can you save her. The murder from the diary. It's all connected. You'll need to piece together the clues if you want to find her. Clues? Paige asked, her mind racing. What kind of clues? Ah, that's for you to discover, Mortimer replied, a mischievous glint in his eyes. But I can tell you this. The answers lie within the darkness you fear. Embrace it, and you might just find what you're looking for. With that, the ghost began to fade, its laughter echoing in the night air. Good luck, darlings. You'll need it. The friends exchanged bewildered glances, the weight of Mortimer's words settling heavily upon them. What just happened? Caitlin whispered, her voice trembling. I think we just got our first clue, Brad said, determination igniting in his eyes. We need to face our fears, just like Mortimer said. But how? Mary-Kate asked, her brow furrowed in thought. What if we can't? We have to try, Paige insisted, her voice steady. For Ashley. Chapter 7. Chapter 7. The Chase. The moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the dense woods that surrounded the friends. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and pine, mingling with the lingering smoke from their earlier campfire. Just hours ago, they had been laughing and sharing secrets, but now, the weight of Ashley's disappearance loomed over them like a dark cloud. The cabin, once a source of thrill and mystery, had transformed into a haunting reminder of their friend's peril. Armed with newfound courage and Sparkle's whimsical guidance, Paige, Mary-Kate, Caitlin, and Brad stood at the edge of a narrow path, their hearts pounding in unison. The enchanted car that had whisked Ashley away was somewhere ahead, hidden deep within the woods, and they were determined to find it. Are we really doing this? Caitlin asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She clutched the strap of her backpack, her knuckles white against the fabric. The thrill of the chase was palpable, but so was the fear of what lay ahead. We have to, Brad replied, his jaw set with resolve. We can't leave her out there. Not after everything that's happened. He glanced at Caitlin, and for a moment, the tension between them crackled like the embers of their extinguished fire. Mary-Kate stepped forward, her eyes sparkling with a mix of determination and mischief. Sparkle said we need to face our fears, right? So let's do this. Together. Paige nodded, her heart racing. Together, she echoed, though the word felt heavy on her tongue. She took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp night air, and stepped onto the path, leading the way into the unknown. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the trees loomed overhead like ancient sentinels, their branches twisting and curling in grotesque shapes. The shadows danced around them, and every rustle of leaves sent a shiver down Paige's spine. She could feel the weight of her friend's fears pressing against her, a collective anxiety that threatened to pull them apart. Do you think we'll really find her? Mary-Kate asked, her voice trembling slightly. We have to, Brad said again, though his tone was less certain this time. We just need to stick together. Suddenly, the path forked, and a thick fog rolled in, obscuring their view. The air grew colder, and Paige felt a chill creep up her spine. "Which way do we go?" she asked, glancing back at her friends. Sparkle's voice echoed in her mind, a playful reminder of their earlier encounter. "When in doubt, follow your heart." "Right," Caitlin said, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the two paths. I think we should go left. It feels right." Mary-Kate nodded, and Brad shrugged, his expression a mix of skepticism and hope. "Okay, left it is." As they moved down the left path, the fog thickened, wrapping around them like a shroud. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the sound of their footsteps crunching on the fallen leaves. Each step felt like a leap into the unknown, and Paige's heart raced with a mixture of fear and determination. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the trees, sending a jolt of adrenaline through their veins. "What was that?" Mary-Kate whispered, her eyes wide with terror. "Probably just a raccoon," Brad said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Or something worse," Caitlin added, her gaze darting around as if expecting a creature to leap from the shadows. Paige felt a surge of protectiveness for her friends. "We can't let fear control us," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "We have to keep moving." As they pressed on, the path twisted and turned, leading them deeper into the heart of the woods. The growls grew louder, morphing into a cacophony of snarls and howls that echoed in the night. The friends exchanged nervous glances, their earlier bravado slipping away like the fog around them. "Maybe we should turn back," Mary-Kate suggested, her voice trembling. "No," Brad said firmly. "We can't. We're so close. We have to find Ashley." Just then, a figure darted through the trees, a blur of movement that sent them all stumbling backward. "What was that?" Caitlin gasped, her heart racing. "Stay together," Paige shouted, gripping Brad's arm tightly. The figure reappeared, and as it stepped into the moonlight, they realized it was Sparkle, the pink donkey, his eyes wide with urgency. "You're going the wrong way," he exclaimed, his voice a mix of panic and excitement. "Follow me." Without waiting for a response, Sparkle turned and bounded down a narrow trail, his hooves clattering against the ground. The friends exchanged glances, their instincts battling between fear and trust. "Do we follow him?" Mary-Kate asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We don't have a choice," Brad said, his determination reigniting. "Let's go." They raced after Sparkle, the path winding through the trees like a serpent. The growls faded into the background, replaced by the sound of their own breathing and the pounding of their hearts. "Where are we going?" Caitlin called out, trying to keep pace with the energetic donkey. "To the hidden passage," Sparkle shouted over his shoulder. "It's the only way to reach Ashley." "Hidden passage," Paige echoed, her curiosity piqued despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "What do you mean?" "Just trust me," Sparkle replied, his voice filled with urgency. "You'll see." As they rounded a bend, the trees parted to reveal a clearing bathed in moonlight. In the center stood a massive oak tree, its gnarled roots twisting like serpents across the ground. At its base, a small opening beckoned, dark and foreboding. "There!" Sparkle exclaimed, pointing with his hoof. "That's the passage." Paige hesitated, her heart racing. "What if it is a trap?" "It's our only chance," Brad said, his voice steady. "We have to go in." Caitlin stepped forward, her eyes locked on the opening. "I'll go first," she said, her voice firm despite the tremor in her hands. "No, I should," Paige began, but Caitlin shook her head. "I can do this. For Ashley." With a deep breath, Caitlin crouched and slipped into the passage, disappearing into the darkness. The others exchanged worried glances, the weight of their fears pressing down on them. "Let's go," Brad urged, and one by one, they followed Caitlin into the unknown. The passage was narrow and damp, the air thick with the scent of earth and decay. As they moved deeper, the walls seemed to close in around them. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. The Confrontation. The night air was thick with tension as Paige, Mary-Kate, Caitlin, and Brad stood at the edge of the clearing, their breaths visible in the cool autumn air. The eerie glow of the moon illuminated the path ahead, casting long shadows that danced like specters among the trees. Just hours ago, they had fled the burning cabin, their hearts racing with fear and confusion. Now, they were faced with the reality that Ashley was gone, spirited away in a car that had transformed from the very cabin they had sought refuge in. The friends were left with only the cryptic words of Sparkle, the talking pink donkey, echoing in their minds. "Confront your fears, and you'll find her. Are we sure this is the right place?" Caitlin asked, her voice trembling slightly as she peered into the darkness. The woods loomed ominously around them, branches creaking like old bones in the wind. "We have to trust Sparkle," Brad replied, his brow furrowed with determination. "If the car is a manifestation of our fears, then we need to face it together. We can't leave Ashley behind." Mary-Kate nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "We've come this far. We can't stop now." She took a deep breath, steeling herself against the dread that threatened to engulf her. Paige stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest. "Let's do this. For Ashley." The words hung in the air, a rallying cry that ignited a flicker of hope within the group. As they moved deeper into the woods, the atmosphere shifted. The trees seemed to close in around them, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The path twisted and turned, leading them to a clearing where the car awaited, its sleek form glinting under the moonlight. It was both beautiful and terrifying, a polished black surface that reflected their anxious faces. "Is that it?" Caitlin whispered, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. The car sat ominously still, but they could feel a pulse of energy emanating from it, a heartbeat that resonated with their own fears. "Yeah, that's it," Brad said, his voice steady despite the knot in his stomach. "We need to confront it. Together." As they approached, the car's doors swung open with a creak that echoed through the clearing. Inside, the interior shimmered with an otherworldly glow, revealing a vision of Ashley trapped within a swirling mist. She looked disoriented, her eyes wide with fear as she reached out toward them. "Help me," Ashley cried, her voice strained and desperate. "I can't get out." "Hold on, Ashley. We're coming," Paige shouted, her heart racing as she stepped closer to the car. But as she did, the mist thickened, swirling around her like a tempest, and she felt a sudden wave of doubt wash over her. "Paige, wait," Mary-Kate called, but it was too late. The mist enveloped Paige, and she found herself standing in a dark void, the car nowhere in sight. "Where am I?" she whispered, panic rising in her chest. The air was heavy, suffocating, and shadows flickered at the edges of her vision. "This isn't real. It can't be real. Isn't it?" A voice echoed, smooth and taunting. It was her own voice, but twisted, laced with insecurities. "You've always been the one who tries to hold everything together, haven't you? But what if you fail?" "No," Paige shouted, clenching her fists. "I won't let you control me." The shadows shifted, morphing into images of her past failures. Moments when she had let her friends down, when she had felt inadequate. But with each memory, she felt a flicker of defiance ignite within her. "I'm not perfect, but I'm trying. I won't let fear dictate my life." With that declaration, the shadows recoiled, and the mist began to dissipate. Paige found herself back in the clearing, breathless but resolute. She glanced around to see Brad and Caitlin struggling against their own fears, their faces contorted in anguish. "Brad!" Caitlin cried, her voice breaking. "You have to fight it. Don't let it take you." Brad was surrounded by a swirling fog that whispered his deepest insecurities. "You're not good enough, Brad. You'll never be the hero you think you are," it hissed, wrapping around him like a vice. "No," he shouted, his voice filled with determination. "I may not be perfect, but I'm not a coward. I'm here for my friends, and I won't let you take me." As he spoke, the fog began to recede, revealing the clearing once more. Caitlin, too, was battling her own demons, her face a mask of anguish as she faced the specter of her past mistakes. "You're just a burden, Caitlin. You'll always be second best," the voice taunted. "No," Caitlin screamed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I am more than my mistakes. I am strong, and I will not be defined by my fears." With each declaration of self-acceptance, the mist that surrounded them began to thin, revealing the car in its entirety. It pulsed with energy, as if responding to their newfound strength. But Ashley remained trapped within, her eyes pleading. "Please, don't leave me," she cried, her voice breaking. "I can't do this alone." "We won't," Paige shouted, stepping forward. "We're coming for you, Ashley. Just hold on." The friends joined hands, forming a circle of support. "Together," Brad said, his voice steady. "We can break this illusion." As they focused their energy, the car began to tremble, the mist swirling violently around it. "You think you can defeat me?" A voice boomed from within the car, dark and menacing. "You are nothing without your fears." "We are everything with our fears," Mary Kate shouted, her voice ringing with conviction. "They don't define us. They make us stronger." With a collective shout, they pushed against the car's energy, their fears transforming into a radiant light that enveloped them. The shadows shrieked, retreating into the darkness as the car began to dissolve, revealing Ashley at its center. "Ashley!" Caitlin cried, her heart racing as she rushed forward. "We're here." Ashley's eyes widened as the mist around her shattered, and she stumbled forward, collapsing into Caitlin's arms. "I thought I was lost," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're safe now," Caitlin reassured her, holding her tightly. "We're all here. We faced our fears for you." As the last remnants of the car faded into the night, the clearing was filled with a warm, golden light. The friends stood together, their hearts pounding but united in their victory. They had confronted their fears and emerged stronger. Chapter 9. Chapter 9. The Truth Unveiled. The night had been a whirlwind of chaos, fear, and revelation. As the flames of the cabin flickered and danced, the friends had been thrust into a world where their deepest insecurities manifested into tangible horrors. They had faced the embodiment of their fears, and in doing so, they had discovered the truth behind Ashley's disappearance. The car, a vessel of their collective anxieties, had shattered under the weight of their acceptance, revealing not just Ashley, but the haunting past of the cabin itself. Now, as dawn broke over the horizon, the first rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, casting a warm glow on the forest floor. The air was crisp, filled with the earthy scent of damp leaves and the faintest hint of smoke from the remnants of the cabin. The friends stood together, their hearts still racing, but now with a sense of unity that had been forged in the fires of their fears. "Is everyone okay?" Caitlin asked, her voice trembling slightly as she brushed a stray hair from her face. She looked around at her friends, searching for signs of distress. "I think so," Brad replied, his brow furrowed in concern. "But we need to talk about what just happened. We can't just walk away from this." Mary Kate nodded, her eyes wide with a mix of awe and disbelief. "That was intense. I mean, we literally faced our fears. How is that even possible? Paige, still catching her breath, glanced at Ashley, who stood a few feet away, her expression a mixture of relief and confusion. Ashley, are you all right? Ashley took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling as she processed the events of the night. I think so. But what does it all mean? Why was the car connected to the cabin? And what about the murder? The group fell silent, the weight of their shared experience settling heavily in the air. They had uncovered the truth about the cabin's dark past, but the implications were still swirling in their minds like the mist that clung to the ground. Maybe it wasn't a murder at all, Brad suggested, his voice low and contemplative. What if it was an accident? The diary hinted at something tragic, but it never said it was a crime. Caitlin's eyes widened. You're right. The way the entries were written. It felt more like someone was trying to cope with a loss rather than seeking revenge. Exactly, Brad continued, his confidence growing. What if the cabin is a reflection of our own fears? The past doesn't have to define us. We can let go of it, just like we did with the car. Ashley stepped forward, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and trepidation. So, you're saying that if we confront the truth about what happened, we can finally move on. All of us. Mary-Kate took Ashley's hand, squeezing it tightly. We've already faced so much together. We can do this. We just need to be honest with ourselves and each other. The group exchanged glances, a silent agreement passing between them. They had come together in the face of fear, and now they would confront the truth that had haunted them all. Let's find the cabin, Paige said, her voice steady. If we can uncover what really happened, we can help Ashley. And ourselves. Find closure. With a renewed sense of purpose, the friends made their way back through the woods, the sun rising higher in the sky, illuminating the path ahead. The forest, once filled with shadows and whispers, now felt alive with possibility. Birds chirped cheerfully, and the rustling leaves seemed to encourage their journey. As they approached the clearing where the cabin had stood, the remnants of the fire still smoldered, sending wisps of smoke curling into the air. The ground was charred and blackened, but amidst the destruction, a sense of peace began to settle over them. Look, Caitlin pointed toward the ground. There's something over there. They walked closer, and as they neared the spot, they discovered a small, weathered box partially buried in the ashes. It was adorned with intricate carvings, and despite the fire's destruction, it seemed untouched. What do you think it is? Ashley asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Only one way to find out, Brad said, kneeling down to pry the box from the ground. It was surprisingly heavy, and as he opened it, a soft glow emanated from within. Inside lay a collection of trinkets. A locket, a faded photograph, and a small journal, its pages yellowed with age. The friends gathered around, their curiosity piqued. Let's see what's in the journal, Paige suggested, her fingers trembling as she reached for it. As she opened the journal, the scent of old paper filled the air, mingling with the lingering smell of smoke. The handwriting was elegant yet shaky, revealing the thoughts of someone who had experienced profound loss. It's dated over 50 years ago, Caitlin read aloud, her voice steady despite the weight of the words. It talks about a family tragedy. A daughter who went missing after a terrible accident. The parents were devastated, and the cabin became a place of mourning for them. Ashley's heart raced as she listened, the pieces of the puzzle beginning to fit together. So, it was an accident. The daughter. She must have died in the woods. Wait, Mary-Kate interjected, her eyes wide. There's more. It says here that the parents believed their daughter's spirit lingered in the cabin, and they tried to communicate with her. They thought they could bring her back. The group fell silent, the gravity of the revelation settling over them like a heavy blanket. The cabin had been a place of grief, a reflection of the family's unresolved pain, and now it was a mirror for their own fears. Maybe that's why we felt so drawn to it, Caitlin said softly. We were all searching for something. Answers, closure, a way to confront our own fears. Ashley's voice trembled as she spoke. I never knew my parents' struggles. I always felt like I was living in their shadows, trying to be perfect. But now I see that it is okay to let go of that pressure. I don't have to carry their pain anymore. Brad stepped closer to Ashley, his gaze steady and reassuring. You're not alone in this. We're all here for you. We've faced our fears together, and we can face this too. As the sun continued to rise, casting a golden hue over the clearing, the friends stood united, their bond stronger than ever. They had confronted the darkness of the past, and in doing so, they had found a way to move forward. Let's honor the memory of that girl, Paige suggested, her voice filled with determination. We can create a new story here. A story of friendship, love, and healing. With a sense of purpose, they gathered the trinkets from the box and placed them gently at the base of a nearby tree. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. A new beginning. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the familiar streets of Maplewood. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and the promise of autumn. As Paige, Mary-Kate, Caitlin, Brad, and Ashley stepped out of the car, the weight of their recent adventure hung heavily in the air. The events of the past few days felt surreal, like a vivid dream that lingered just beyond reach. They had faced their fears, confronted the shadows of the past, and emerged stronger, yet the echoes of the cabin and the enchanted car still whispered in their minds. Can you believe we actually did it? Caitlin said, her voice a mix of disbelief and exhilaration. She brushed a stray hair behind her ear, her eyes sparkling with the remnants of adrenaline. We faced our fears and saved Ashley. Yeah, but at what cost? Ashley replied, her voice barely above a whisper. She looked down at her hands, still trembling slightly from the intensity of their experience. I mean, I was trapped in that car. It felt so real. Brad stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're safe now, Ash. We're all safe. That's what matters. His gaze lingered on her, a flicker of something deeper passing between them, but he quickly turned his attention back to the others, masking his emotions beneath a layer of camaraderie. Mary-Kate, ever the optimist, clapped her hands together, breaking the somber mood. Let's not dwell on the past. We should celebrate. We survived a haunted cabin and a magical car. That deserves a party. Paige chuckled, her laughter lightening the atmosphere. A Halloween party, maybe. We can make it a new tradition. Something to remember our adventure by. Count me in, Caitlin exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. We can decorate, tell ghost stories, and maybe even invite Sparkle. At the mention of the pink donkey, a collective grin spread across the group. Sparkle had been an unexpected ally, offering both humor and wisdom when they needed it most. The thought of him brought a sense of warmth, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, laughter could light the way. As they walked toward the town square, the familiar sights of Maplewood greeted them like old friends. The bakery's sweet aroma wafted through the air, mingling with the earthy scent of damp leaves. Children laughed and played in the park, their joy a stark contrast to the shadows they had faced just days before. Let's stop by the bakery, Brad suggested, his eyes lighting up at the thought of fresh pastries. I could use something sweet after all that craziness. Good idea, Paige agreed, her stomach rumbling in agreement. I think we've earned it. As they entered the bakery, the bell above the door jingled cheerfully, and the warmth enveloped them like a cozy blanket. The display case was filled with an array of treats. Pumpkin spice muffins, caramel apples, and ghost-shaped cookies. The sweet scent of cinnamon and sugar filled the air, making their mouths water. "Wow, it all looks amazing," Caitlin exclaimed, her eyes wide with delight. "I'll take one of everything." "Slow down there, Cookie Monster," Mary Kate teased, nudging her playfully. "We have to save some for the party." After a round of laughter and a small feast of pastries, the friends settled at a table in the corner, their spirits lifted. They shared stories, reminiscing about their adventure, each tale punctuated by laughter and the occasional shiver at the memory of the cabin. "Remember when we thought we were being chased by that ghost?" Brad said, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "I swear I almost peed my pants." "Yeah, and then it turned out to be just a raccoon," Caitlin added, her laughter ringing out like music. "I think I'm still traumatized." As the conversation flowed, Ashley felt a warmth spreading through her chest. She had been so consumed by her fears and insecurities, but now, surrounded by her friends, she felt a sense of belonging that she hadn't realized she craved. "You guys really helped me," she said softly, her voice sincere. "I don't know what I would have done without you." "We're a team," Paige replied, her expression earnest. "We always have been. And we always will be." The group fell into a comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts. The bond they shared felt unbreakable, forged in the fires of fear and tempered by love. But as the moments passed, Ashley's mind drifted back to the cabin. The whispers, the shadows. It all felt like a distant memory, yet the weight of it lingered. "Do you think we'll ever go back to that cabin?" she asked, breaking the silence. The question hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears. "I don't know," Brad replied, his brow furrowing. "Part of me wants to leave it behind, but another part is curious. What if there's more to discover? More ghosts?" Caitlin teased, but her smile faded as she caught Ashley's serious expression. "I mean, we faced our fears. Maybe we could go back and see if it is really haunted. Or maybe we could just leave it as a memory," Mary Kate suggested, her tone thoughtful. "Sometimes it is better to let the past stay in the past." Ashley nodded, appreciating her friend's perspectives. "You're right. We've all changed. Maybe it is time to focus on the future." As they finished their pastries and prepared to leave, the bell above the door jingled again, and in walked a familiar figure. Sparkle, the pink donkey, trotted in with an air of whimsical confidence, his vibrant coat shimmering in the bakery's warm light. "Did someone say party?" he brayed, his voice cheerful and melodic. "I heard there's a celebration in the works, and I simply had to join." The friends erupted in laughter, the tension of the past few days melting away in Sparkle's presence. "Sparkle!" Caitlin exclaimed, rushing over to give him a hug. "We were just talking about you." "Ah, yes. The brave adventurers who faced the shadows of the past," Sparkle declared, puffing out his chest. "I must say, I'm proud of you all. You've conquered your fears and emerged victorious." "Thanks, Sparkle," Brad said, grinning. "We couldn't have done it without your help." "True, true. But remember, my dear friends, the journey doesn't end here," Sparkle replied, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "There are more adventures waiting just around the corner. You've only scratched the surface of what lies ahead." "What do you mean?" Ashley asked, her curiosity piqued. "Are there more ghosts?" "Perhaps," Sparkle said, his tone playful. "Or maybe a treasure hunt, or a riddle to solve. The world is full of mysteries."